Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first episode of Habitat Update, the English channel for Startup Japan related topics based in and focusing on the Kansai area in Japan, which is the area with the cities like Kobe, Osaka, Kyoto, and so on. We'll be posting this as a video and maybe as audio podcast, as video on YouTube, obviously, audio maybe on iTunes and other podcast services. We'll see about that. This show goes live every 2 weeks on Thursday, Friday, and in between there might be some other kinds of content labeled with Habitat Update, but more about that at a later point. My name is Tugi. With me here today Sabrina. Hi Sabrina, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Tugi?
I'm pretty tired. It's been a long day. It's in the evening here. We're sitting in this co-working space in Kyoto and doing this show for you.
I'm really excited today.
You are?
Yes.
Why?
I can tell you later.
Oh, okay. Let's start with who we are and what we are doing and why we are doing this actually. So, ladies first.
Of course. I'm originally from Brazil and I've been working for Makers Bootcamp. We are also a startup.
Here in Japan?
Here in Kyoto, Japan.
Hi.
And we've been working with startups for almost 2 years. We support startups that need to build a physical product, so we help them with project management and small lot prototyping. So those are the skills that require expertise, professional support, and that's what we can offer to the startups. And also, we just launched our fund. I can talk about it later.
Great, good to hear. I am Tugi, as I said. I am originally from Switzerland. Just arrived earlier this year in Japan actually, so everything is pretty new for me. I'm working at the Global Venture Habitat in Osaka, which is a co-working space and part of the Venture Habitat in Osaka, as we call it, which should be like an ecosystem for entrepreneurs. And our aim is to motivate, build up and support people with entrepreneurial mindset, which are thinking about global topics, and we try to focus on like students and young professionals, but of course everyone is welcome, and the ecosystem in Japan, in Kansai especially, needs everyone we can get, right?
Of course, that's what we're here for, right?
And that's what we're here to promote, to build up a community, to interact with everyone, and to provide some content here, not only to Japan, but like to let the outside world hear about the activities, because there are some contrary to some beliefs.
Yes, they are startups, but the point why startups in Japan do not reach the later stages is because they don't get initial funding for reaching their goals. So then it's always about coming with the idea, try to find funding and dying. So I think the venture capital is a key point to improve our ecosystem and foment startups here.
It's not just that, I mean, yes, the venture capital is missing, but still the mindset of the people. I mean, there are here and there now new generation of people which have this mindset of like trying new things, but not still very, like, it's a minority, very small one.
But even for this minority that is willing to do things, it's really hard to get funding. So
yeah, of course, that's
we need more local key stakeholders involved in that whole thing.
How can we change that?
That's one question we have to share for the next episodes, maybe.
We can change that by showing people, hey, there's something going on here. There's a community. There are entrepreneurs here. So raise your voices. Innovate the hell out of Kansai. Let's move on. Let's move on to a section which is devoted to update, to the name actually of the show. To actually update the people about news and some topics I found online or happening around here. And I want to start with that one exciting thing you wanted to announce since the beginning. So please, the show, how do you call? The scene is yours. The scene.
The stage.
The stage. The stage.
Okay,
Oh,
the stage is not actually the stage is not mine today. It's the Boston Biomotion. That's the New York-based startup that we announced today as our first startup.
You mean Makers Bootcamp?
Makers Bootcamp, the first startup on our portfolio, and they provide a personalized physical exercising and rehabilitation for injury, for recovery, with software as a system. Software as a service.
Software as a service.
Bringing a 21st innovation to the healthcare and physical professionals. Why this is so important? Because that's an industry that hasn't changed much in a while. And we announced today that's our first startup. We have others to come pretty soon, hopefully. And we also had the first LPs, the limited partner, the Japanese company that will support this. Moriseki is a company from Nagoya, and they are they are in the area of machinery, so they are interested to support Boston Biomotion. And we hopefully from now on we have more companies coming, reaching out to us, so then we can match their startups with their current needs in terms of investments.
I saw you also wrote, like, if anyone wants to know more, you posted an article earlier today.
Yeah, on our Medium.
Yes.
We have a Medium channel for Makers Bootcamp, and then you can check the details of why we found Boston Biomotion so interesting.
Well, that's great. Despite, I mean, it's not a local startup. Still, it's like an activity here, and
but I think it's more than just thinking about local or global, or like connecting the stakeholders, no matter what they are.
One thing, that's very important. It's not important like there's no competition going on. It's important to connect everyone and have a nice flow going on there.
No, even with competition, you can still have the flow.
I know, but like, it's not like an evil competition. It's like how do you say, like, energizing competition. Whatever. What I wanted to say is, like, it's actually a very interesting concept. Like, even for the Japanese market, especially, like, I saw that arm, right? You know, you can exercise like certain movements and whatever. And I see, like, Japan is crazy about baseball, and I see, like, sports people are like just young kids on the streets running around and like kind of like, you know, exercising their throw. You know,
I see people in our co-working space exercising golf movements, and tennis
like
movements. I saw already frisbee movements. So that's a habit the Japanese tend to practice their movements in the middle of the street. So why not? I think Japan is also a great domestic market. It's important to say Japan is the third largest domestic market in the world. It's a very mature, high end. And I read this Bloomberg article this week that the Japanese luxury industry for elderly is the second in the world, just behind the US. So there is a huge need here. So if you're thinking about some elderly aging product that will benefit and make sure people can live better and longer, I think this is a great start.
It's a good market, yeah. Great.
So that's the first startup. We have others coming soon, and we are waiting for more companies to reach out to us and join our fund.
So everyone, if you're a startup there and needing a hardware startup, IoT startup,
building a
that's the person to talk to.
Yes.
Let's move on. So I have some more news here I picked out. No particular order, just reading down. Let's see. One of them is like from July 13th. I was here on Nikkei Asia Review. SMBC is setting up a fintech fund with the US equity firm, like the accelerator. It says, and I'm quoting here, Japanese mega bank Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corp has joined forces with a US venture capital firm, Entrepreneurs Roundtable Accelerator, to establish a fund backing financial technology startups. Hooray, right?
Yes, that's a great news. We met recently ERA, that's the Entrepreneurship Roundtable Accelerator, as they are known for, and we met the founder, Murat, and he's really...
He was here in Japan.
Yeah, he came to to this event. I think it was in March at Keihana. Keihana is south of Kyoto, around Nara area. There's the Nara Institute of Technology and Doshisha University. It's a center for innovation, and they have started this program with ERA to accelerate startups there. So the startups are there, they're just a little bit decentralized. And what's good about ERA is that no matter who you talk to, the personal and the commitment from the team members is really truly positive and genuine into the startup ecosystem, and this has been great. One of the startups we supported last year with our Monozukuri cohort, they came here and afterwards they were accepted into the ERA program. They are really excited. It's a great school, and they also provide not only initial funding but introductions to possible partners.
But that's amazing. That's how it should be, right?
Yes.
We need more of those everywhere around the globe. Let's stay local and go to the next news here, and which is a very interesting one. That a Hong Kong company is buying the Tesla of Japan, which is located in Kyoto.
GLM, yeah.
Let me quote here. Quote, watchmaker Olux Holdings said on Sunday, this was like the early July first week. Watchmaker Olux Holdings said on Sunday it will buy Japanese electric vehicle startup GLM for about 896 million Hong Kong dollars, which is equivalent to around 114 million US dollars. And end quote. This is very interesting because you know them, right? The GLM is a university spin-off from the university in Kyoto.
From Kyoto University?
From 2010.
Kyoto University, I guess.
Kyoto University,
yeah.
probably. Yeah, Kyoto University. From 2010, this is interesting. One of the few spin-offs of Japan, actually, I would say, because there are not many. And you know them, right?
Yes, they were supported by the Kyoto City Fund, and I wrote an article about them maybe 1 month ago. They were one of the cases of Kyoto innovation. What I hear from outsiders, especially when I go to places like Tokyo, where I meet even Japanese VCs, they don't believe there are startups in Kansai, and they don't believe there are hardware startups in Kansai. It seems like there's not much awareness of what's going on in Kansai, so that's the purpose of having this session here, so we can bring those things to the table.
Which is actually really sad. Like, you have one of the oldest, earliest, first semiconductor and like in general like manufacturing companies worldwide here based in Kansai around Kyoto.
Yes.
And no one knows about that. That's weird.
People don't know it's a Kyoto. They know it's just a Japanese company. But if you mention the big names, oh, have you heard of Nintendo? And know that they're from Kyoto, and they get really, really surprised.
Yeah.
But apart from Nintendo, we also have Kyocera and the Air Ceramics, Omron, Rome, Murata, and all those Horiba. Those are towards either semiconductors or healthcare. Panasonic, which is in Osaka on the way, and it's totally a lack of awareness of how the system works. So basically, in Tokyo, there's no traditional hardware, so that's why we are located in Kyoto. The whole ecosystem is in Kansai.
It makes sense. Sit close to the big players, right? To the players.
Yes.
In general, like not only the big names are here, like Panasonic, but also like the manufacturers that would deliver the products to them, like the parts, right?
The suppliers,
yeah. The suppliers, yeah. That's the name. There's a word for that, I see.
Actually, the suppliers have changed their business model, so the most innovative ones have already switched from being mainly a supplier for parts, and they are already launching their own R&D units with patents going on, so they have their own products, and especially in healthcare and robotics, they are doing amazing things. They have their own machinery. They are working on Industry 4.0. So the fact they are small, maybe they cannot compete in terms of how they promote their work, but they are doing a lot of things, and that's what we are trying to bring with Makers Bootcamp.
There's actually a great episode about this, about the suppliers and how they have to change or should change and do change in one of the most recent Disrupt Japan podcast from Tim Romero.
Yes.
Go check that out. I'm sure you're aware of that.
We
If you're
should
listening
put
to this, I'm
You
sure
should
you're
put the
aware
link
of that.
there.
I'll put a link in the descriptions.
Yeah.
Let's move on. A little bit more global. You know, there's this co-working space global company called WeWork, and which is like as I said, they provide co-working spaces around the globe and over over 16 different countries with many spaces, and the spaces are really fancy, well located, nice interior, and with lots of services and different models to subscribe to and so on. And the news reads, let me quickly point it out here. Of course, it's about Japan. Quote, WeWork is gearing up to launch its co-working space in Japan thanks to a joint venture with SoftBank. SoftBank said, as part of the arrangement, SoftBank and WeWork will each own 50% of the joint venture, which will go by WeWork Japan. WeWork Japan's first location will launch earlier next year in Tokyo, end quote. Very interesting, of course, in Tokyo. But what do you think about that? You think there's a chance for them? I mean, there are many co-working
I
spaces.
think it all depends on how they're going to manage to engage people in the co-working space too.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Right?
Yeah, so then the thing is not building the people will come, it's actually create some unique value and attract the right people to come. So that goes through the entire design thinking or how to launch this thing. I'm sure with SoftBank involved, this has been considered. WeWork has been well succeeded and knows how things work. They might not have the entire knowledge about how the Japanese market works, but I'm sure they can partner with the good players who can drive them.
Still, I recently read this article when I was looking this up. Actually, there was something about like in the UK, some of the spaces are not really profitable. So like while you have maybe many people joining and being part of the community in places like New York, where the original one was, I think they are from New York, but like already in places like Europe or London, it's like they struggle, and like I can imagine they will even more so struggle like in Japan, because it's a difficult area where even locals understanding the people.
Yeah, but I think that the whole point is, if the co-working spaces become mainly a real estate thing, and then that's not suitable for startups. The kind of people they will attract in terms of price and experience would not be the startup who are actually building new things and disrupting in the sense of what we are trying to focus here. They might attract small and medium enterprises or professionals who are like architects or designers, artists who just want to work remotely.
True.
And I think it's a different thing. We had an experience with WeWork Dumbo in New York 3 months ago. It was really a cool event. We had a Monozukuri workshop, and our team was very impressed because in New York it seems they've been doing very well. Let's see how it goes here.
They do. And it's interesting you said like it's a 50-50 joint venture with SoftBank, so SoftBank might have quite some influence here. Maybe that helps, maybe not. Anyway, let's move on. We talked about how there is no venture capital, no risk money, no investments here, and no funding in Japan. And then you have Silicon Valley. Joe Bone's demise, a case of death by overfunding, which is really interesting. Let me read here the first sentence. What says, quote, consumer electronics company Joe Bone had more than enough money to take on Fitbit and other health tracking devices in the wearables market. That might have ended up being its biggest problem. And of course, this is the news about Joe Bone's going kind of like bankrupt,
Out of the
market, despite being such a highly valued company for so long.
Valued and funded, two things.
And that was the issue as well, right?
Yeah, I think that I read this article. It says that Jawbone is the only consumer product that was one of the top failures in terms of the return of an investment, and all the others were in like solar energy or technologies there extremely pricey in terms of research, but in the kind of business they were doing, that was not expensive, and with the amount of money they had, they should be able to bargain with manufacturers and make a better quality product. Because if you read the reviews and the comments about their consumers, were all fans. They really wanted to purchase. They tried one, they didn't like it, then they bought another one that they would get sometimes the third one for free, but they couldn't trust the product, so then they were left without no choice but buy the competitors.
So if you cannot please the early adopters, then how are we going to please the broad market?
Yeah, but at their size, they were already like mass.
That's interesting.
It's really interesting, and that's in terms of startups, they were really above the average in terms of financing and power of bargain with manufacturers, but something went wrong. So it's not only about a matter of money, it is money first, but also how the startup will manage to run this new company and lots of money. That's a big point.
Yeah, one funny fact about Jawbone is they were initially, I guess, they were like producing Bluetooth headphones and like wireless speakers.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had also like some ideas about pivoting into healthcare something, and now they are this Fitbit, which is also kind of like Fitbit competitor, which is also kind of like healthcare, but like however, they were never sure what to do.
It's not haircare, it's
wellness, healthcare. It is
fitness.
If you care for your health, you track your heartbeats, no?
Okay.
Anyway, it's an interesting case. So here, people are like digging holes to find any kind of funding. There, people get overfunded over years for just to go out of the market because the product couldn't take off. I think that's it for updates and news for today.
Sure.
And I want to move on to a section which I call, since it's called Habitat Update. The habitat is the ecosystem here in Japan. That's also why we call the global venture Habitat, in Osaka. Everything makes sense now. It's a habitat anyway, and in the habitat we have inhabitants.
Okay, great.
In this segment, ladies and gentlemen, we want to introduce you every now and then some local startups and maybe like co-working spaces or other related organizations, infrastructures, and so on. And please, what do you have for me?
I have 3 startups I would like to introduce today. Let's go by alphabetical order because we're in Japan.
Okay.
So the first one is a Kyoto-based startup, Hakarus, and they recently got a 50 million yen fund, which is around almost $500,000 from Kyoto City Startup Fund and other followers. And they've been. It's interesting because. Kenshin, the CEO of Hakarus, is also one of our co-founders. And Makers Bootcamp started after his own experience doing manufacturing. So he had to make a small lot in Japan. Before heading to China for mass manufacturing, he decided to use the small lot capabilities that we have here available in Japan. And it was really successful in terms of producing. It was smooth. In 3 months, he got all he expected. He tested the product, but apparently there was no traction for that experience to be an IoT. So then, after iterations and so on, he decided to switch from an AI with a AI experience more towards software. And now they just launched the B2B, and they are going to launch pretty soon the B2C app to track your health in general. But I think the most interesting point here is that he tried with a small lot, he spent not much, it didn't work, he changed his business model and continued growing and continued getting funded. In some cases, the startups still keep doing iterating the same thing that it wouldn't work, instead of realizing that was not a matter of the hardware being perfect, it was a matter of the product not having a market for that physical product in the case. And he's been used as our case that for us it's better to failure first, failure soon, with a small amount of money and switch your business model,
Fail
then
fast,
continue. Yeah, fail fast.
Yeah.
But that's a in his case, I think it's great, and it's the opposite way. He didn't fail, but he switched the business model to save his startup, and he's been doing great.
And now he has some more funding.
Yes, he
Good
does.
for him. Good
Yeah,
luck.
yeah. The second one is from Osaka, Blangor Robotics.
Blangor.
Yes, they have they launched recently a Kickstarter campaign, and also Makuake, the Japanese crowdfunding platform, for their Playing Cube. It's their second robot. This one is a personal assistant, a small, like a square camera that can track your movements. The sensors can take photos, and then it can be both for like movements and sports camera, but at the same time it can act as a personal assistant with the hands-free and no cables, nothing. You on the go. You can take it as a quick. And what I like is the design is very kawaii, ne?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
very
It's like
Japanese.
a cute cube which can track you. But the real cool thing about it, what I like is it's not just a selfie tracking device hardware, but it's like actually they provide a whole platform with it.
Oh yeah.
It begins with like they will provide, I guess, various APIs to connect to other devices, and then also like the hardware itself, they will provide the plans, and they will rely also on community upgrades and changes, so that you can, if you have the opportunity to, you can print your own device with a 3D printer and use it.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
that's
really
interesting.
cool.
They just got a partnership with SoftBank for the AI. So I think they are doing great because they are they know hardware is just one part of IoT. So they are doing the whole experience, including software, and they don't have the traditional engineer mindset, considering just making things. They are always trying to listen to their customers, get feedbacks, improve, and also they have both foreigners and females. So I think they're a good
Very
case
multinational.
of a Japanese startup that is really disrupting the system.
That's great. We need more of that. And it's from Kansai.
Yes,
Osaka. You always say I say it wrong. I say Kansai. I say
yeah, Kansai.
So
Yeah, it's okay.
let's move on.
Yeah.
Next one.
The next one is Momo. Momo is from
Momo.
Kobe. Momo is working on Otomos. Otomos is a smart shield that is available on the crowdfunding platform Makuake.
Okay.
Yes, and it's focused on parental control over kids. So it's actually a way to limit the amount of time that children will spend on their smartphones. So you can track even when you're sleeping or if they are in the school, and that's not only for them to control the amount of hours, but also to control if they're walking and typing to avoid accidents. And some of the concerns that they realize are a big issue, because in Japan, let's remember, kids stay alone most of the time since they're very, very little. They commute alone.
I always see them in the streets in the mornings, in the trains, and it's
I
kind
think
of cute and like
security, children's security in Japan is a little bit different than out of Japan, but still they want to make sure that children are safe. And that's a big market. They have the data and they have their crowdfunding campaign. They are validating their concept and considering how to move on to the next steps. And they get this fund from, so last year they joined the 500 Startups Pre-Accelerator. That was a partnership with Kobe City. And this year they got this fund. It's a 10 million Japanese yen, around almost $100,000 from Kobe Fund City, followed by Future Venture Capital, FVC, the same venture capitalist that runs FVC Mesh, this co-working space we are now.
Right now.
They're from Kyoto.
Yes.
And they follow Kobe City Fund to support local entrepreneurship. So I think it's interesting to notice since last year, end of the year, that the government changed the legislation of how banks and other players could have equity on startups. So you see the movement of more and more local players building their fund and trying to use open innovation to transform their business.
That's the way to go, right? Like
Yes.
you push new legislation changes of rules, so it gets easier and you have more opportunities to interact. But
Yeah, that's why in fintech, I mean, Bitcoin has changed, cryptocurrency has been used in the Japanese post office, the main banks, and also with the pitch, the low cost airlines.
yeah,
So once the government makes the first move, many companies
people start doing things.
start to
Of
follow
course.
it. So we see the move with startups, but still too slow. We need to move faster.
Let's move on. Do you have anything else?
No, that's all for today.
Great, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next segment I want to call Habitat Echo. And I don't mean echo as in ecological, economic, or ecosystem. I mean echo, you shout in a cave and it comes like echo, 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 echo. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Like the sonar of like.
I do.
Okay.
I get it.
And this is all about you, all about the listeners, the viewers, the community. And this is where we interact with you, where you interact with us specifically. Means, if you have any questions, any feedback, you want to hear more about something, you want to hear less about something else, you just want to compliment how good I look, or just I don't know, promote your startup, or you want to come and pitch, I don't know, just you want to engage and interact with us. This is where we read your mails, where we give you the opportunity, where we answer your questions and so on. You can reach us either through habitatupdate@gmail.com or then straight to Sabrina via sabrina.at@makersfood.com, or you can reach me via Twitter @GünesT. I'll write this all down here somewhere, or maybe at least in the descriptions of the video and the podcast. And since this is the first episode, there's not much to say here. Besides that, I know that there's an awesome community out there and that we want you to be part of this. It's not just us talking, it's us.
Even if you're a student, you're still struggling with your first steps, let us know.
Anyone, it doesn't have to be an experience in Japan, but like maybe you can say, oh, I'm doing this and this in the States, like, right, I'm from, I don't know, Europe, Berlin is a big hub at the moment. How is this in Japan? Or I'm thinking about going to Japan, maybe you can check out something for me. Do you know that? Maybe we know someone, even if we don't have the answer straight from us, from our brains. Anyhow, that's that. Let's move on. I want to add one more segment here, which is, I just call it, I don't know, I have no name, events. Because what's a startup ecosystem without events, right?
Yes.
Workshops, meetups,
networking
sessions, pitching contests, and so on. Here in this segment, we will briefly explain to you what we have been up to in the last 2 weeks and quickly mention what is going on, or what you should not miss in the upcoming 2-3 weeks. Sabrina, have you been to an event?
Last week I went to the GVA startup camp in
GVA startup camp
in Osaka at the startup
Cafe.
cafe Osaka, and it was interesting to see students, and mainly male students. I'm expecting more female
participation. It's a common issue everywhere, right?
Yeah.
We need more females in the entrepreneurial roundtables. And yeah, of course, we're talking about the GVH Startup Camp 2017 opening event, and I should know it because I'm part of it. It's an initiative from the Global Venture Habitat in Osaka. It's targeting like anyone, basically, but mainly students and young professionals, and it's gonna be a 2 to 3 months like startup program with lectures every weekend, and in between you can work on a project, and you don't have to have an idea from the start. Like there will be team building, idea generation, and so on. If you're interested, check the homepage, I'll post it, and be part of it. Another upcoming event is the Seitaikai event. It's a ecosystem meeting. What it means more or less will be on July Oh wait, I'm talking about already about upcoming events. Yeah, that was a good transition. July 24, next Monday in the afternoon in Osaka in the new Hankyu Hotel. And this meeting is about like getting together everyone interested and being part of the ecosystem here in Kansai to talk about how we can develop this venture habitat furthermore and create opportunities for next gen innovations.
Great, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there.
Yes.
I've seen you have great speakers,
Yes.
both Japanese and non-Japanese.
Yes, indeed. There will be like English speakers as well as Japanese speakers, and it's free of charge actually. You can just sign up and show up, and I'm expecting you there. Anything else?
Next week we'll have an event in Tokyo. So from next week on, we're hosting in our second cohort of Monozukuri Bootcamp with one startup from New York, Hope Light, and they will have. They will arrive in Tokyo, and we'll have a Monozukuri Night Hardware Cup event.
May I quickly Monozukuri?
Yes.
Very popular word here in Japan. Can you quickly explain what it is?
Well, the meaning of Monozukuri is kind of broad. It stands mainly for making things, but not only making things, but making with constant improvement. It has to do with the mindset of always changing things, and that's the main drive that we try to bring to the startups.
Constant improvement.
Yes. It's just, it could be a startup mantra, iterate.
Build, measure, learn.
Yes, exactly. And that's going to be a good night to talk about what Hardware Startup Cup is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What date is it?
The 25th.
25th.
It's going to be in Tokyo at Startup Hub Tokyo in the evening. So first session will be Japanese, for Japanese, will be mainly in Japanese. And then afterwards there's going to be an English session with a startup, and Hope Light will be there. And we also are going to have another one from the same Monozukuri group in Osaka as part of the Monozukuri tour on August the 2nd. It's a Wednesday on the evening. It's going to be at the Osaka Innovation Hub.
One more thing which is worth mentioning maybe is a pitching contest which will be held at the Osaka Innovation Hub as well. Namely, and that's what I was trying to look up here.
Challenge Cup Japan?
Yeah, the 1776 Challenge Cup Japan. It's an international pitch contest. It's in English. And it's coming to Osaka. And the challenge will be held on July 27th. Is a Thursday in the evening. As I said, in Osaka. The original is from Washington DC. And startups here will compete. They mentioned something about over 20 companies participating. Of course, you will only see the finals, I guess, in the evening because it would just take too long. But anyhow, it's always very interesting to see such global events in Japan because that's forcing the startups also to get out of their comfort zone, to try new things, speaking English, which sounds funny, but even I struggle sometimes. Here you hear it.
We all do. We are not native
speakers. As a non-native speaker, and it's even harder for Japanese people, and the barriers are quite high for them because they not only is it about not being able to speak the same way as you would in the native language, but it's also culturally they tend to not, they fear failure. And they tend not to speak up, even if they could speak. So just thinking I'm gonna make just mistakes and I will be ashamed, and better not.
That's why programs that they can practice to reach that point. This is an international competition, just like Hardware Cup.
Yes.
They need to practice to get there, but prior to that, they can take small steps and join, startup weekends and hackathons, or even GV8 startup camp, or anything that might slowly help them to shape their skills. And that's what it's important to acknowledge, that it's going on in Japan. It's available for Japanese and non-Japanese.
Yes, and as you can hear, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting more and more tired, and at least me, and my speech is getting like lower quality. So let's stop while it's there. That was it for the first episode of Habitat Update, the English-speaking channel for Japan, startup Japan topics, based in and focusing on the Kansai area with the cities of Osaka, Kobe, Kyoto, and many more. Just the ones I'm sure they are here. The show will post every second Thursday or Friday. We'll see about that on YouTube as a video podcast, and then hopefully also as an audio only podcast on maybe iTunes and other podcast services. All the descriptions, links, and how you can reach us or find the events you mentioned or the startups will be in the descriptions. If you like what we do, subscribe, follow us, write us, interact with us, be an entrepreneur, and tune in the next time. Thank you very much.
Bye bye. See you.